So now I'm very proud to introduce Mr. Jan Timmer. I'm very proud that he's here to talk to you about innovation in Eindhoven. I think we owe a lot to Philips. Me as a designer, I think, and I feel it really deeply. So I'm really very proud you're here and that you're willing to do this first talk, the second talk to this audience. I will get the other ones. If you want to start. And keep in mind, we're live, so there are other people watching us. Als u een stoel wilt, kan ook, hè? Ja, het is inderdaad heel lang. Kan ik u als even aan? Ja, ik zal niet weg.
My name is Jan Timmer. I'm 85 years young, and I started at Philips 65 years ago. And I know this neighborhood very well because I used to pass here from the room I had rented. And I worked at the Emma Single, what is now called the Admirant. That was the Philips head office at the time. And I started there in a very junior position on the third floor. And above us was the floor of the board of management. And some people think that from that moment on I must have thought that's where I want to go, right? I'm very happy to have been invited here. I think I owe that to the fact that I have, at my ripe old age, I have written a book. And so, although I am more than 20 years away from Philips, I can recommend you to remember that when you approach the age of 85, to write a book as well. Because it's surprising how much attention you get then. And it is surprising how many invitations you get to speak at places like this. And I'm here because I'm very impressed with this initiative. Eindhoven calls itself, Eindhoven and surrounding, calls itself Brainport. And that's a very ambitious name. For a gathering of entrepreneurs last year, I have warned them to use that name too frequently. The reason being that if you place that label on yourself, you think you have done it, you can rest on your laurels, you have declared yourself one of the brightest regions in the world, and that's it. And my warning was, that's not how it works. And I speak from experience. We in Philips, we had a time also that we believed we were on top of the world, almost invincible. We used to say, if we can't do it, who can? Well, I tell you, lots of people can. And we were misled by this enormous collection of buildings and all these people here, and we really thought, you know, we were invincible. We fell asleep at the wheel. That was fatal then, And falling asleep at the wheel now is even more fatal. Because the geopolitical economic circumstances in the world of 2018 are immensely different from when I started at Philips. When I started at Philips, Europe was still enjoying the fruits of after the war. Everything we produced was sold, and we had a relatively easy life. What's going on now is that enormous competition has started. Mind you, in 1952, when I started, nobody spoke seriously about China. It was hardly a topic, you know. They were asleep there. Napoleon has already said, he had great foresight, let China sleep. Because if they wake up, you can finish the sentence. Okay? And they woke up. To be precise, they woke up in 1978, which is, in historical terms, yesterday. Even less than yesterday. Only 40 years ago. And they performed a miracle. I can't call it otherwise. And they have enormous ambition not to stop where they are now. And that is our problem. Because we in Western Europe, we live in a kind of post-industrial paradise where we get excited about things that don't matter. Things that are really immaterial in terms of what is going on in the world. What is China's aim? Openly stated. To become the #1 economic power in the world. That's their aim. And will they succeed? Yes, they will. Don't think anymore like we did in the 60s, 70s, that China was a place where you went to have products manufactured cheaply, cheaper than we could do it here, that we had the brains, that we developed the ideas, and they were a kind of place where you could do cheap manufacturing. That is the biggest mistake the Western world has made. A mistake in misjudging the ambition and the competence and the will to win of China. It was hundreds of years ago the most prosperous country in the world. They were the inventors of gunpowder, of the compass, of printing. They invented paper. We are so much used to. What I mean to say with that is they are an extremely able people, a gifted people. And what they have in abundance is, apart from brains, is probably the most decisive factor. The will to win. The will to win. And we, in our world, we are insufficiently aware of that. Is it really bad when they become so prominent? It isn't if we at least maintain in Western Europe and in America some basic capabilities, knowledge ourselves. But you must realize that in the field, for instance, I mentioned one example, of flat screens. Europe and America are no longer in the game. All these screens have to come from the Far East. Not only China, but also Korea, and to some extent Japan. That's fine as long as the world situation remains stable, as long as we don't get so many Donald Trumps to disturb things and whatever, right? But and certainly a country, a continent like Europe, with, until the British go, 500 million people, we should be able to master our own destiny and to make sure that we do not become fatally dependent on others. It's not only China that we have to be afraid of. What about the new digital world? Most of you are more familiar with that than I am as an old man. But the combined shareholders' value of Google, Amazon, and so on runs into the trillions of euros now. They saw the opportunity, they grasped it, and they dominate the world, right? And we have become totally dependent on that. Totally dependent. There is only one country who understands the power play of the Americans, China. The Chinese have said, no, you can't come in without our approval, right? The Googles and whatever. In Europe, they came in, they built fantastic tax constructions. They sold as their products. They channeled their profits via Ireland to faraway places, right? In the digital sense, we have become a colony of the United States of America. And wait, after Amazon and other organizations based in America, you have heard of Alibaba, you have heard of Baidu. Enormous, enormous companies, very, very powerful. No comparison. There is no country in Europe that can match that. Now, why all this? I talk about that in my book, which is not available in English. It was difficult enough to write it in Dutch. Why do I tell this? What should be our answer? What should be our answer to that development that's taking place? That we leave our zone of comfort. That we do not only rely on the quality of life, that we don't have only a 9-to-5 attitude, because there is a war going on, an economic war, which is fought in the hardest possible way. And we in Europe, we cherish our post-industrial well-being, right? We believe in the quality of life. And we think that will last forever. Okay. Well, we have made terrible mistakes. Some of you will remember that not so long ago, there was a discussion in the Netherlands about the pensionable age. I remember that. That's a great advantage when you are 85, then you remember those. And if you have a good memory, then you remember those discussions, to lower the retirement age evermore. And the working hours should also be lowered because we want to have more free time. Now, 20, 30 years later, we are discussing whether we can afford all this. Nobody can pay for it. But we have the money. But we have the means. And now we are talking about raising the pensionable age. And of course there are people who protest, who live in dreamland, right? And two peoples in Europe live in dreamland even more than we do. That's Great Britain and Italy. They seem to think that wealth and prosperity grows on trees and that you don't have to do anything for it, okay? This is a symptom of what happens if societies become too much at ease with themselves. That brings me back to be careful not to be too proud of brainport. You have to keep it like that. You have to earn that. And it will not stay as it is. If you stand still in this time and age, you go back. It's an illusion that you can stand still. All my travels in the world, I was always impressed when I talked with American businessmen. They had a different definition of speed. They thought we were awfully slow. And it took us far too long to reach decisions. And they were right. And the Chinese tell me, keep on living your leisurely lives. We will come and spend our money in the museum that Europe will turn into. And they mean it. Right? So what we face is, we thought that after this enormous positive development after the Second World War, prosperity was there to be forever. And we didn't realize there were other people in the world who were far behind us in the race, who are in the process of overtaking us and have overtaken us already in many fields. Right? And not only the people from the East, in the field of, I repeat, in the field of digital technology, the Americans are leading the pack, you know? And what can you do against it? I remember the Facebook story, the unethical behavior of Facebook by selling information, so, right? And there was a Dutch television presenter who told us all, get off Facebook. And did we react? No. Because we find it far too important to be on Facebook. I'm not on it. Well, my grandchildren are. And I keep on asking them, what's the purpose? What's the fun? And they said, well, Opa, they are all English speakers. Well, Opa, we can't explain that. And you won't understand it anyhow. You're far too old, you know. But the change is so profound that the prosperity of Europe, the European countries, of our children and grandchildren is at stake. I'm not dramatic. I mean it what I say. Okay? Speed. Our speed is too slow. I used to say already in the days of Centurion how different it was if you lived in Eersel or in Sterksel and you got on your bike and you got to the Natlab. You started to work at the Natlab. How different your world was from the world in Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo, Seoul, and whatever, where the fight starts when you leave your door. The fight to get a place in that underground or in that train. Some of you will say, well, we are not much better, but that's another story. What I'm saying is, environment, the place in which we grow up, the things we surround ourselves with, the things we get used to and find normal, 3 holidays a year and what have you, two fridges and what have you. That is what we are used to. And we think it will be there forever. I tell you, it will not. And what is then the solution? And that's the reason why I came here tonight. Because I believe in this initiative. I've traveled to China many times. I'm an honorary citizen of the city of Nanjing, that has about half the population of the whole of the Netherlands, right? And I used to give master classes at Nanjing University. And I was deeply impressed with the attitude, with the eagerness to learn, with the alertness, with the hunger for knowledge of these young people. And it was often said to me, they are too shy, they won't interrupt you, whatever. They did. Of course, I encouraged it also. And I loved these get-togethers. I did this kind of things also at Dutch universities. And I do remember distinctly when the euro was introduced, Tilburg University had a seminar with the greatest expert on that subject in Europe. Business, banking, government, what have you. Top speakers. All condensed in one day. So if you went there, you were in the picture about all the pros and cons, because there were also people against, of the euro. I thought it was a fabulous initiative. I was one of the speakers. And I was deeply disappointed that the aula of Tilburg University was not even half filled with students. And when I said something about that, later on, when I came there regularly, they said, yeah, but Mr. Timmer, you don't realize we are so busy already. I said, with what? Well, we have basketball, we play hockey, we have this and that and the other, and then we also have to study a bit. And I said, let me give you one of the basic lessons in life. If you want to make progress, and who doesn't? There are not so many people without ambition. There are various degrees of ambition, but I hope all of us have a certain ambition. If you are of the opinion that you can make a contribution, that you can that you can perform yourself at the maximum, you get out of yourself what's in it. If you have the drive, if you have the will to win, I said, you have to set priorities. And for you young people, I said to them, whose future will be greatly influenced by this introduction of this new coin. Happens only once in 5 centuries or so. You have to live with it, you and your children. Why don't you want to understand exactly what it is all about? Why do you give priority to the other things? That I couldn't understand, and I will not understand, ever. Because one of the things that drove me in my Philips time, from the time in 1952 that I was at the Emma single, was I wanted to know why and how things were. I came from a small village in the middle of the country. And I said, my God, what am I doing here? You know, I saw all these big buildings, I will never understand it. So I started asking questions. I started approaching people, and I had two bosses who were wonderful bosses. Empty desk, always time for my questions. There were no introduction courses. Philips didn't do that. It depended on you, on yourself. And all my life, this curiosity, this wanting to know, has driven me. That's also why I wrote the book. That's also, in a way, why I'm here. Because I believe that the solution to this geopolitical economic war that I have just described is that we get together. And this area, Brainport Eindhoven, has a great many talents, very able people, brilliant people. But we refer to ASML as a wonderful example. I could tell you that ASML exists more or less by default. But I can tell you that later on. It is in my book. But it's one thing to say we are Brainport. It's another thing to show and prove that is really meaningful. That is not only a kind of illusion we hang on to. All right? In Philips, the organization suffered enormously from tunnel vision. And I'm reminded the time is up to this. So tunnel vision. Departments micromanaging their own department, their own place, but not cooperating really for a higher purpose. And if I look at this area and I see all this talent and I hear of all these companies, I say, why can't we start a revolution, and starting with the young people, to share knowledge, to learn from each other, and to get, and I hope this gathering of this innovation club will flourish. Get the best speakers you can get on subjects that are really important, right? I challenge you, if any one of you could stand up and say, I can explain to you the essence of 3D manufacturing. Don't we have a feeling, yes, we know approximately what it is all about, with the exception of one or two experts in the room. It's fundamental to our future. Why don't we want to know more about it? Learn more about it. Okay? And that's why I hope this initiative will succeed. But it has to go beyond, and there is a very bad Dutch word, and that word the non-Dutchman here will know anyhow, and that is called gezellig. Right? And if this becomes a very gezellig club, it's a nice environment and all that, and if you leave it at that, if it doesn't go beyond gezellig, then my appeal to you is for nothing. It is up to you. You have to do something with it. Okay? Now I'm afraid I disturbed the organization and I have many important things to say. You know, then you have to ask the organization to. If the question would be, there's interest in knowing how a very large corporate transformation, one of the largest in Western Europe, how this goes. What are the determining factors? What determines success? What obstacles you have to overcome? How do you create a winning spirit among those who have to do it? If you want to know whether people who caused the problem could also be part of the solution to the problem, then you must convince the organizers of this meeting, and then I come back, and then we devote an evening on that.
That was my idea, actually, because time, but yeah, okay. My God. Maybe the question was wrong. To ask you for half an hour. So shall we do this in next week or the next 2 weeks?
Next week, yeah.
Do you have some time?
I have some time, but it would be awesome. I'm still exhausted from all the speeches I have to give about my book.
Let's say the next time it suits you.
I also need to wait to another time.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you so much.
Talking about Centurion, we changed the way we communicated with one another. We were very hierarchical up till Centurion. And when we started the Centurion sessions, we put people in alphabetical order in the room, irrespective of title. Okay? Now, there is a danger then of anarchy, if you do that. And that's why I had this bracelet on. To make sure that they didn't get their own ideas.
Please feel free to join the next. I think there's something with the sound. I hear something. No? Okay. Is that okay?
ergens anders dan voor het scherm?
Het zal aan de orde komen als deze club succes heeft, hopelijk succes, dan moet je niets kiezen van micro en macro.
Dat connect met elkaar.
Je moet je plaats in het geheel leren zien en leren begrijpen. En ik heb ontzettend geluk gehad dat ik op jonge leeftijd, 26 jaar, dat ik daarna toevallig een paar plaatsen heb gekregen, vlak onder de raad van bestuur, het terrein mee kon onderzoeken. Daarom kan ik op mijn werk praktisch in ondersteunen.
Ja, waarom ik een vraag stel, ik ben zelf eigenlijk een bergterrein. Ik heb eigenlijk bij ooit begonnen met een tobbe, hoe gek is om altijd een tobbe te maar ik zie daar dat wij hier nog een stap eigenlijk programma's aan aanpassen worden. Ik probeer er heel erg in, dat wij de tussenweg als het filmen. Maar het wil me niet echt lukken. Dus ellebogenwerk plus de kennisinstellingen. En daarna is het met de tijd.
Echt succesvol. En hij is pas succesvol als de meerderheid van de doelgroep jullie te bevoeren. De donderdag is vrijdag hier en dan en dat verhaal is een mengeling van luisteren naar topmensen en zelf dingen doen. Wij hebben in Centurion, dat zal ik nog vertellen, al een uurtje was. Die aan de bar staan.
Direct op avond, ja.
Nee, ik begrijp dat niet. Mijn grootste zorg is dat de jonge mensen van vandaag niet reageren en nieuwsgierig zijn.
Zullen we anders verder praten aan de bar? Kunnen we nog
Andere-
meer vragen stellen daar?
Andere balans moeten zoeken.
Ja.
Als je nu naar mij kijkt, ik heb natuurlijk heel veel moeten opofferen om mijn privé te leven. Tot van filmfilmeringen zonder academische opleiding. Nee, ik heb alleen maar HBS.
Ja, maar deze jonge mensen zijn niet hongerig. Dat is niet hongerig.
Ik ben wel
En dan moet je als heel fout is, je bent echt heel fout. Moet je dan in een nat land verhandelen en dan
so much information in one. I was afraid it wasn't enough. Okay. Well, see. Can you get something now?
Well, not yet. That's basically why I'm here. So can we hear? Hi guys. So who of you guys is international? Like not like born and raised in Holland and yeah. Any more guys? Thank you guys. So basically, these are the things we focus with kind of later. If you are an investor, anymore? Yes, yes, I know you. That's it too, right? Yeah. Let's do green. There you go. Is that it? Hey guys, welcome. I have to speak in the mic. Apparently, it's not really a fan, but do it. So basically, I'm here to investigate and start an investigation, a research I'm doing, and I will explain a lot more about it later. First, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit because that would make a bit more sense. So basically, I am the first night mayor of Eindhoven. Woo! Whatever that may be, but I will explain you later. So basically, the last 15 years I've been traveling around the world, organizing events for the, mainly for the organization called Extrema, which is Eindhoven based actually. And you know, we started as a little company and grew out pretty fast because we were one of the first companies that were actually organizing events. Back in the days there were dance events, and you know, we got more into live music as well and shit like that. Well, anyway, basically, traveling around the world, organizing events, and then at a certain point, I thought, you know, what I was doing was not really a part of the zeitgeist. Times were changing, you know, we were in a time that festivals became bigger, better, faster, and in that certain amount of time, then people wanted to have a bit more smaller events, right? Like more intimate and a bit more, you know, and that was in the time that biological food came into visions, and we all wanted to, you know, be a bit more aware of our lives. You know, it was totally the zeitgeist, which is actually happening now as well, of course, but that's, you know, it was talking about like a couple of years ago. So basically what I started to do was try to investigate how we could be a bit more of use for in our world we were living in by organizing an event. So basically, when I thought that, I was like, okay, an event brings people together, right? That should be we could be a bit more of the sum of parts. And what we did in that time, I went to Design Academy, or actually I was teaching there, and we developed a concept called Do It Together. And Do It Together was basically based, the event was basically based on a model. It's called the quadruple helix. And before I'm actually going to explain what that is, I'm going to tell what the triple helix is. Triple helix is a model that is actually based on the fact that it's a lot of policy is based on that, governmental policies, that people want to work together in a triad. Which is basically, on one side you have the government, and the other side you have companies, and then you have obviously academies and universities, and they should work together a bit more. And that is all about, you know, written policy. But it's not actually happening. It's all written policy for governments and local municipality, for that sake. And then in Eindhoven was quite pioneering for that matter, together with other cities, and they used to use this model, which is the quadruple helix. And the extra addition to it are the users. So here's the companies, here you got the academy, you got the government, and which is municipality as well, and the users. Users are basically the users of the government, which is us, the citizens. So that was actually part of the policy in Eindhoven as well. So I kind of got inspired by that to organize events by being a bit in the middle of it. Because I was thinking, the policy is written like that, but it never really happened in the real life. So an event can actually be the glue between all these, right? So an event can put people together and look what the needs are for a location, and everything you create, you give back to the creator or the location. So that was actually what I was doing at that certain time. I got asked to do that at Skype S a couple of times, and at a certain moment, there was the World Capital of Design. And I got asked by the Brainport Development and Design Academy to do that in Taipei, which I did as well. And there I met Charles Landry. Charles Landry is a researcher, quite a big one, and an interesting guy. He's researching developments in cities and based, on sociology, social design, and a bit of philosophy as well. And what he wrote is, and this is something you should remember, I will come back to that later, but it's Taipei is a beautiful city, has so much potential, but it won't grow by itself. Older generation needs to open for the younger generation. Because that's what it is, there's a lot of, the time is growing exponentially, there's a lot of changing, obviously everybody is aware of that. So the older generation is basically the generation that makes policy, right? And the other generation is us. I mean, I still feel young. You want to do stuff, but you have to collaborate for that matter. So back in Eindhoven, I got asked to be a night mayor. I wasn't really sure what is a night mayor. I did know. I lived in Amsterdam at the time because I didn't really like it in Eindhoven anymore because it wasn't culturally, it wasn't that much, vibrancy. So I went to Amsterdam for 10 years. Came back in Eindhoven, and I was like, okay, maybe I want to do that. The municipality asked me, but then first I wanted to research why Eindhoven needs a night mayor. So, what does a city need? International ambitions, a lot of, policy around it, a lot of city marketing. Eindhoven needs, this and that, and it's like ASML, it's like a lot of international employees, and we need, big, better, faster again. But what does a city need? Right. So, according to the research in Berlin and Amsterdam, which is both places I lived a bit, and I knew people, especially the night mayors there. So I started to collaborate with the night mayor of Berlin and Amsterdam. Because those are obviously, concerning nightlife, quite big cities in the world. And so what he basically said, thriving nightlife pushes developments, First culturally, because it gives stage to people, and you need to have a nightlife. If you are working, for example, in ASML, if you're working in a lab for 5 days, you want to party on the weekend, right? Because then, if you're at a certain age, and you want to connect, and you want to be yourself, and, things like that. But at the longer term, it has a big economically developments as well. It had big benefits. So that I found quite interesting, and that's obviously, this one is obviously the thing that the municipality wants to hear, right? So, what nightlife needs is it needs to be diverse and frequent, which is a thing that Eindhoven maybe doesn't have, but but that's I come to that later. But diversity and frequency is quite important to develop culturally. Diversity is obvious, because you need a broad spectrum, and the frequency. You want to, if there's a spot where you can dance, you want to make sure you can dance there from Thursday till Saturday, anytime. So you don't want to look if there's an event. No, it needs to be there from Thursday till Saturday, and if it's there, people can come and go, and and you get an exponentially growing, group of visitors. That's what a city needs. A city with ambitions needs that. Which is Eindhoven, I guess. No, it is Eindhoven. So, what do you need to create that? And then I come back to that quote of Charles Landry, right? So you need, the younger generation and the older generation need to connect. So what the older generation is kind of close to it a lot. So what do you need as an older generation? You need to open up, and you don't need money. You don't need money. We don't have money here in Eindhoven, so you don't need it. No, it's true. You don't need it. You need time and space. You know, you need to get rid of the anxiety. You need to give time and space. Because time and space, what is time and space? Time and space, anyone? Evolution! Right? You know, we wouldn't have sat here. We wouldn't have stand here if we didn't have enough time, if we wouldn't have had enough time to get, you know, time and space to be from this, you know, like this super micro, you know, to, you know, this beautiful creatures you are. Right? That's what we need. Time and space. So that's what they said in Berlin as well as in Amsterdam. So, again, about Taipei, the funniest thing is that Fancy, actually, he invited Charles Landry to Eindhoven. And so I heard from Tom Aus from Trudeau that he actually said literally these words, except for the first word, because that was Eindhoven. So he basically said, you know, they need to open up more. There's just like this old-fashioned like things called the system, and in Eindhoven we're in there, I guess, a bit. So we need to open up more. So what I did is I organized a debate just before the local elections. It was quite tactical, of course. There was normally in a debate. Normally it's an initiative from the government or for the municipality itself, and then you would say like 30 or 40 people. Then you would be happy. There's a lot of like 30 visitors would be a lot. My debate was about the nightlife. We're debating nightlife. It was 350 people, and that was basically because we weren't allowed to have more people in the building. So basically, it was a really urgent matter, right? That was we could say that. So we started a dialogue with the politicians, and that was basically the start of the whole thing and the reason why I'm here. So what is a night mayor? I got elected or chosen, whatever, to be that at that point, and I knew what to do. So basically, a night mayor is a lot of words, but it's an independent non-profit organization dedicated to ensure a dynamic nightlife and helps to build bridges between the municipalities, small businesses, owners, and residents by creating a mutual understanding. And there you go, right? So you started the dialogue is started, and then you start to have a dialogue, which we just did with GroenLinks as well. We did a follow-up, and we started to make the dialogue more with more content and make results out of it and try to develop, a better city in that matter. To, talk with the people from the town council, together with the organizations, and basically those organizations and the people who are actually, making the nightlife in the city. I did a research already, and they grade the nightlife, and it was all less than a 5, except for the FNAG. So they all said basically, it needs to be better. So that was, talking about urgent matters, right? So basically the next step is you need to have facts and figures. Facts and figures, because the town council, the municipality wants to see facts and figures before they actually believe what we are saying. Because now, then they're not, they can't really go any other way than, it's a fact. So we started a couple of researches recently. One was at the TU, it's about architecture. It's about how we can make the city architectural better for the nightlife, for the night. So think about light, think about infrastructure, etc. It's not the TU in Eindhoven, actually, it's the TU in Delft. Sorry, guys. And then the other one is with Design Academy, which is, I'm not allowed to say blockchain anymore, but it's about social design and how we can actually make that better in our city. So basically, it's about processes, about asking for permits for empty places. There's a lot of empty spots, a lot of empty locations where we can actually use for creative content, for exhibitions, for Design Academy students, for example, which is, always better than being empty. So that's something we are researching, and the way the things are processed, because it takes a long time sometimes to ask for a permit. So the next one is with Fontes. making a creative footprint. So basically, measure zero. So what is actually the city like now, and how can we make it better? You know, so that's the and the last one, and that's the main reason why I'm here. That's why I'm talking so fast. Is the NHTV, which is in Breda, International Event Management, and that's Laura. There she is. And why? Why? Because there's a couple of things that I actually noticed. When I was teaching at the Design Academy, I heard, and I actually checked it today, is that more than 50% of the Design Academy students fly out of Eindhoven after they graduate, which is a lot. And it's actually people you really want to have in your city, right? Those people give good content for your city. And those people like to party as well, actually. So, and then for your own knowledge, 70% of Design Academy is international. So, a lot of people. So over 50% of the Design Academy students leave after graduations. Then I spoke with Monique Mols, and Monique Mols is from IESML. She's from the communication department. Is she here? Yeah. Who is she? Oh, hi. Yes. Cool. That's your name. I can do it again, like da 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 da, and there she is. So, yeah. Well. Yeah, she told the internationals need to feel at home in Eindhoven, which is obvious, but it's not always the case. And I'm not saying it's all about nightlife, but you know that's my department, so I'm trying to research that, and that's the whole reason why we're here. Not Monique Mols, which is a reason why I'm here as well, but the fact that we have an aim to have a lot of international people in the city. And I mean, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did in the last 5 years. It's getting more and more, even in your own surroundings. But there is, you know, I'm not saying a hiccup, but there's like, those people need to feel at home a bit more than they might or do at the moment. And I think nightlife can actually work with that. So, for all your facts and figures, 582 international students we have in Eindhoven. According to the Central Bureau of Statistics, 70% is international. Around 10,000 international employees. Bart, is Bart in the house? It's around that, which is 5% of our the amount of citizens we have in Eindhoven at the moment, and a bit less. But it's getting more. So it's an interesting part of nightlife we should aim at, I think. And if we're developing anyway, then why not using this as well? So let's do a little research. It's a pity there's not that many internationals, but still cool. Yeah. The research is actually online, and then we're gonna put it on somewhere on our website from Kazerne or whatsoever, to just check out for both international students and employees what actually are your needs, because we wanna fulfill them. For example, is the Eindhoven nightlife diverse enough? You have a green one and a red one. The green one is obviously yes, the red one is no. I see red and green. I'm not sure what color that makes. Okay. Oh, is that no green? Cool. Oh, there's one green. Oh no, that's just okay. So you go out a lot? Nathan, right? Yeah, I can remember that. Yeah. Yeah. So where do you go? Straatmuzijnd. Or in your house. Yeah, so, and then Samzijnd, is that like you go there because you want to go there, or you just think, okay, there's a lot of bars, so you're probably there? Makes sense.
You like it? If there's better, I would go better. What would you like to see? I don't know. What don't you? Well, what is it that the Samzijnd doesn't really like give you the 100%? Yeah.
It's commercial music, you're wasting 90% of the time. And also just like this Dutch music.
So as well, for internationals, it's a bit harder to blend in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, is it hard to blend in? Like other accents as well?
Yeah, as well. But when you're with your friends, of course, you don't need to blend in, but you don't really meet new people in the nightlife.
Okay, okay.
Yama, is it, right?
Yeah, I like well, no, it's a bit lacking in diversity. It's homogeneous. Yeah, so countdown, man. Come on, man. We need more culture here, man. Per capita, I know is really less than 200 times what Amsterdam is. So we have to put a stronger lobby, man. I'm there.
Thank you, Yama. Is there somebody who really likes to say something about this? More? No? Is there? Okay, so not diverse enough. Yeah, there's. You're a techno DJ, right?
Yeah, well,
No, you speak in English.
Yes, actually, I live here nearly 10 years, and I organize also some parties, but I not in Stratum zijn. But I did some at Lab 1 before. It's Maria Hagen, it's all the monastery, and yeah, and you see, like, if you make those kind of parties, you see so many international come to the party, and then because they have the freedom, they are not like not those drunk people in Stratum zijn. They are going there because they can't drink and they can be really drunk and being annoying. But they go there because they like the party and they like the music and they like to dance and they like to meet actually other internationals.
What is the difference between Stratum zijn and the places you now actually mentioned?
Yeah, the difference is like there is much actually official. Yeah, it's like they're only and all young people and really go there only actually because of that street and they get drunk and they make problems. And the music is like not that nice. They keep anybody playing music because they just have music and they want to sell some beer. So every place has the same music.
So you know that's one target group that's actually served there, which is good. But there's a need for different types of music, which brings different kind of people. Yeah, cool.
Say something. I think the main problem with Stratum is just the fact that
you know exactly what's going to happen when you go there. You just go there and you drink an enormous amount of alcohol and potentially have a slobbery kiss with someone or what have you. But there's nothing interesting about it. I don't think I can go there.
Your opinion, eh? That's about your.
Okay.
No, but but that's about your taste, yeah. So it's not for your taste. I mean, I do like a slobbery kiss once in a while, but.
Yeah, I think Eindhoven has a lot of potential because we have so many international people, and I think many people would like to do something for the nightlife too. I know many people who want that, and it's really difficult to find places to do something. And I think in a city like this, you should be able to go out any night, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, whatever, and then you should be able to choose from a techno party, a rock concert, a pop concert, a hip hop concert, or R&B club, whatever. But it's like Stratum is the only thing, and it's only in the weekends.
Yeah, it's quite conserved as well, so it's very dense there. Yes?
So I've been in 4 different countries in 3 different continents, and one of the countries I lived in was Cairo. And a lot of people would think, I mean, I thought myself, Cairo, it's a Muslim country, people don't drink. I think there's a lot of Muslims here now. I'm not Muslim. I'm actually from Mexico, which is also party land, right? But what I see is, I mean, why is nightlife only about bars? So the thing about Stratum Zand is it's not fun if you're not drunk. No, it's not. So what I would be looking for is a nightlife that doesn't only revolve about on clubs and music. I mean, that also has things that are open for 24 hours. I mean, the shocking thing in Cairo is that if you go out and have dinner at 12 o'clock at night, you can have your kids with you.
Yeah, so that's definitely a thing. The night shops here close at 2. So that would say they have like 2 hours, right? Okay, so the next question. 5 minutes. I have 5 minutes. Is it that tight? I'm the last one, right? So can. Forever, that's for sure. It's just getting started. So there's the one. Are the Eindhoven nights long enough? Please vote. Yes or no? Are they long enough? You think it's, yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, but that's good. That's good. That's definitely good. Cool. Yeah, so not. So basically, yeah, could you tell something about that? Just short? Yes, you. Hi. That makes sense.
Yes, they're not long enough.
Oh, really? Now, so are you used in your own? Where are you from?
I'm from Italy.
Okay, nice one. I'm partly Italian as well. That's very good. No, but how are the openings hours in Italy?
Basically as simple as like if you want to party more than until 4 a.m., then it's a problem. And in Italy, I don't know, clubs, they might close around 5, but then there is always something happening. In Milan, in other cities actually, I don't know.
Okay. Molto bene. You went, yeah? You.
Well, I have a question. I have a question about the colors you gave us tonight. So why did you give us the green one? If the questions were those ones. Okay, no, just joking. So yeah, I also come from Italy, the very south, actually, Sicily. So I can give you the antipodes of the same country. But basically, I was doing a lot of music, live music, when I was in Italy, and I left the place because I started working here. So. Not new life, no problem. So I was looking for a new band, and the hub can be a starting point, but there might be other alternatives if you want to have some diversity, as we mentioned before. So if the question long, well, it depends on what you do, of course, and where you go, like you were saying. But what would be a good idea is to, as you say, research, maybe expand this research even more. I mean, I think you're doing that already through different generations and different type of cultures, background, religion, doesn't matter. So it would be nice to discuss this also further later. But basically, yeah, I do miss the diversity and diversity in offer when it comes to any type of culture. I miss also theater here a lot, even though there is a theater, Park Theater, which is quite active. Theater as theater prose per se, performance art, musical, improvisation. I know that this is happening a lot in Amsterdam, for example. Yeah.
Again, it's not diverse. Huh? So you can go to the Park Theater, for example, or you can go maybe to the Muziekgebouw once in a while. Yeah, there's somebody there who wants to say something. I need to be quick because I only have a couple of minutes left.
A very simple answer that public transport stops at 11 or 12:30. So if I'm drunk, I
have to walk 10 kilometers. If I live farther, so it's already shortened for me.
Yes. That's one of the things. We have the ambition to be an international city, but even our public transport concerning trains actually stops at 12, and so that means there's no people coming into the city and no people going out. Sorry? Yes. Yeah, I know the story behind that, but that's an whole other political story now. Because we have another one. Are there enough spots to mingle and meet new people in the Eindhoven nightlife? Do you feel like you can mingle? Because obviously we have the hub, and we have like nights, especially for internationals. I think that's kind of a bit of the problem. You don't want to have them on one spot. You want to have to mingle them, right? So is there? There's a green one there. Yama? No? Come on, guys. You have your cards, so you have to vote. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah, that's okay. That's you share your cards. That's kind of okay. So I don't really like Yama. You want to say something about it?
Well, I think there is a paralleliteit, ik weet niet hoe je het in het Engels zegt. Yeah, so everybody sticks to their own little groups, right? The Indians stick to their own people, and the Chinese with their, and the Italians with their own people. So maybe we have to mix up a little bit, yeah? And yeah, you can have clever design, I don't know, maybe smart programming, different...
But do you feel welcome in our city then? I'm really curious about that question. Yeah, you're Dutch, man.
I'm not Dutch. I know you're discriminating me because I speak Dutch correctly, but I'm not Dutch. Sorry, just kidding. No, as I was just saying to Christian, I think there are a huge amount of opportunities, but they're well hidden. So if you know where to go, so for instance, Brancandies is one example, this is one example, there are plenty of networking opportunities which also go outside your... I can give my opinion, right? Sure. So I think that if you look for it, you can meet new people also outside of your own network and also outside of your own cultural background. And I think that within the time that I came back to the Netherlands and Eindhoven, I haven't met a single person who comes from exactly the same background as myself.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a personality thing as well, if you open up. But then again, I really want to see somebody who had the green. You were green, yes? No, yeah. No, I want to have a green one because you feel welcome in Eindhoven and you feel like you're happy to mingle. Because in Stockholm you weren't really happy, you just told me. So tell me.
I think in Eindhoven or maybe Netherlands in general, people are more open to talking to you, whether you are international or you are new to a city. So I think that's why I feel welcome, and I don't mind. Like, it's a very personality thing that I go out and I can talk to people, and it's not true with a lot of people. At least I know from my own community from India. Like, people are happy staying with Indians or Chinese. Similar to that is a very true story, but it's a very personality based thing. Yeah. Then you have to either make some event to go, like, have people meet together, or that's the only solution for me.
That feels like you're in a gray area, just starting, like we're just something developing here, and like we have, obviously we had like people from Spain and Italy, my grandfather, come and work here. But now it's like the policy is kind of like aiming at it as well. So there is a gray area now that there's a lot, we want to attract more internationals, but there should happen something, I think. That's what I feel. But you know, the research will find out. I will skip quite quickly then. Well, this one I skipped then. And then, so that we already talked about. Okay, so the main thing is that we just put a research online. There's a couple of hundred people that already filled in, but please, if you are an international, please fill it in. And if you have, you know, the connection to certain communities or even Facebook pages and so, please put it on there because we want to make it as representative as possible. Laura, she's there. She would love to interview you like live as well for her research. It's just a couple of questions, not that much. You don't have to do it now, but you know, just by mail or whatever you like. But it would be definitely be at the end a really good fundament to actually change policy and maybe change our views on the way internationals can land in our city. That'll be it, guys. Thank you very much, and thanks for your contribution.
Can I ask you a question? Where can we find you? Because, yeah, where can we find you?
I'll be here for a few minutes, so if you want to be in the discussion or if you want to be interviewed, please come to me, give me your email address and I will get in contact with you. Otherwise you can always reach me through Facebook.
Yeah, but just send an email to us or Facebook or whatever, and then
would be great.
And this is just the first part of the sequel?
Yes. Is that we will show you the results, and then the third one is obviously the one that is actually that we're actually going to see how we can change things and where we can
Thank you all for visiting, and please join us at the bar and Yeah, I think it was a great success, the first one. Thank you.